Thì rồi còn chỉ đó cái này thì ngoài chỉ cái này chỉ qua chuyện là ta bên này điều phục công việc chỉ có ta bên này mà nó ta tới ra thì cái điều chỉ có nó để đi mai thì cao phải mà ta bên phần này cấp độ cho nó đào phần thì này nó những cái ta tới tới mấy này mình rồi ai đến này thì ngoài phải chỉ qua là mà bên này điều phục công việc chỉ kia thì nó yang mà tới kia phải cái nó mai official ora với nhau cái chú cái phải ai ta tới này Mihi.
It's not a problem in
in there not to what
are you using the Outlook app?
Arwana ki amai Mihi in there not even kia kwet ko tuana o te pai mari na o tate nei kingi wai tāna kōrero te wai toi mahana tipaho hia te pūtaki o tēnei taongi tō maunga ki taupiri pai whakaroana ki ngā roi mata e mā turu ana te waioranga a tongo riro ki taupiri a hea o he waioranga mo tātou i tēnei wā ride hau pai mari. Tō te akanga kapuona māramatanga e te atua tō mātau ki ngi tue i te pōtatau te pero te tuwhitu o tiki tau na whare. I ngā panina pauri nā rawa kore nā tīna ne mauiwi tiama. Ai no kia mātau katoa i te rangi nei.
Kia mātou ka whai nei, tau ai nei, whanhera o te Waikato, no reira kua kahi a mihi atu nei kia whue e tonu. Nau e whakawā te urahi mo tō tātou hui I tēnei ata, no reira ka mihi kia whue o eho. Kia koutou hoki e tau nei tēnā koutou, ko te kāo nui ki o hoki ki tō tātou ki te hei kia koutou tau te hoki ki kua whitu, a ke rongi tapu e o tapona mātua e mōna tūpona hori tō hoki ki te kāhi a reki kia koutou hoki kei wangi a tātou whai ngāhi. Te whare e tūnei tēnā koe tūponu ki whape waho rā, a tēnā koe taumai, whakatau mai o e tēnā kōrero. Mihi a whae waha hoki kia ngā tene aitua, ngā tene mate ko wehe atu o te rataha kaore mākau e ki te ana. No reira haere koutou haere, haere kia waiki nui, waiki roa, waiki whamamau, I tahitanga retua te huhunga ngā o pauri taho, hao me ta mamai, haere o kia ki tā. No reira ati tuhono tātai mono, rātou kia rātou, ati tuhono tātai, mono tātou ngā kāna, ki tātou. Ka huri aua no kia koutou ka pō, tēnā koe a Jackie, e te rangatira, kia koutou hoki, o Norm, Jocelyn, tēnā pōia, tēnā koutou. E mihi atu nei, ngā kaitaunihero, te taunihera rohe o Waikato, te tau nei, te hongi te koutou whakehiri o tēnei rangi, e mihi atu nei, kia koutou. Ko te kaupapa nui o te rā, ko te hono, ki te whakakaha te hononga o tātou, o tēnei hoku, hei whainga o te tai au, hei whainga mo ngā hāpuri hoki o te rohe o Waikato. No reira, kaurea kōrero I tēnei wā hoia no, ko nui ngā mihi kia koutou katoa, tāpuru, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnā tātou I api moni kura, I api moni tauko, me mihi ka tika kia koe ton, o tira kia koe nev, kia whai ngā tikanga me ngā kawa I homai ngā tūpuna, anō reira, me mihi ka tika ki te whiriwhiri o ngā whakaro I whakari e tātou I tēnei wā. He honore tēnei kia tūkara o te maru o tēnei o ngā whare, karau I te maru tō tātane paimanga o Hakarimata. Kei runga rā I te poke, kei kora I whakatakato ai tō tātane pāpā Sir Robert, ke reira hoki I tapatungu e me mihi ka tika ki aia, me ona whakaro e pana ki te taiao me ngā hua, kia puta I tēnei wā, e pana ki tōna reitaki, no reira me mihi ka tika ki te whakaro e aki nei, I whakaro aki nei tātou e pana ki te taiao o tira, ko tō tātane aua tūpuna E rere atu nei, kei ko nei te papa o Waikato tānui, kia hopu me ki ngā ahuatanga kia ngā whakamua, te whānau o tātou no reira, mai Waikato tānui, kia koutou te kanihira, he mā, koutou mā, tēnei temi, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou paki.
Whakamoemeti, whakawheta, o I te iwi o koe te whina ka puta ki te oranga e te ariki pai mari e te ariki pai mari.
No reira tātou, kia whakatū hono mai nei kara o te maru o te kaupapa tēnā koutou, ngā wai tapu me mihi ka tika whakatau mai rā, kei rau te maru o tō tātane whare, o tira, ka rau te korowai Waikato tānu no reira. Ka piti hono tātou hono rātou kia rātou, ka piti hono tātou hono, te mohura kia tātou katoa nei, pai mazi kia tātou katoa.
O kia ora koutou. Kia ora Don, Neville, kia whakatū whera tō tātou hui, nau mai, huki mai, Pamela, Noel, Neville, cousin Johnny, and nau mai hara mai, kaimahi o Kanihira o Tōreo. This is supposed to be our last hui of this current, our current membership of the Joint Management Committee. We'll see what happens over the coming couple of weeks, because we might have another hui, we don't know yet. But the intention was today would be our last week. It was one that we sort of snuck into the calendar because we did want to land the strategic work program, which is on the agenda today, and I get to go out and see some of the good work that has been happening over the last 3 years. We've got a very tight time frame for this week, so we'll cut straight to it and call for apologies. We've got Huirama Matatahi, who's over in North America at the moment, and Bruce Clarkson. Are there any other apologies or people who need to leave early? Carl?
I can't go on the field trip because I had another engagement at 1 o'clock and I've got to be there in Cambridge, so I'll be here for this.
Oh, kia ora. How do you want us to call?
Yeah, I'm moving to say it.
Have a movement? Second the Jean, all in favour? Carried. So moving to confirmation of agenda. Are there any requests for additions to the agenda, bearing in mind that we've got a short time frame? I've got one thing that I want added to the agenda in general business, and that's just to discuss and provide some feedback on the lower Waikato Catchment Committee terms of reference, which I'll discuss with Pamela and Noel. If there's nothing else that anyone wants to add, we'll move on. Disclosures of interest.
We need to move on second for a confidential agenda.
Yeah.
Donald, Norman. All in favour? Carried. Disclosures of interest. I think these got sent into regional council staff for the record. But are there any new disclosures that people want added to the minutes? Or any changes? Oh.
Okay, tonight, we made this.
We don't need to move on second.
I don't want to hold up the meeting for the minutes.
Confirmation of previous minutes.
Done. I'll move in.
Moved by Tupper, second by Donald, all in favour? Carried. And for the first abstention, my turn, the revised draft strategic work programme, Mother and Mali. Don't need to ask, Mali.
Right. I'll keep this brief because we don't have programs for this currently. But just a few key points to make. This co-governance committee has emphasised the importance of having a strategic work program to guide our work for the next few years. You'll recall that an initial draft was presented at the last week, and you provided some really good feedback, and so staff from both organisations have really worked the drafting and incorporated that feedback. It's within your agenda. The key, I guess, improvements that have been made are the initiatives have been grouped into 5 distinct groups for ease of reading, I guess, better organisation and to enhance the overall clarity. We've added reference to the collaborative projects involving multiple agencies as opposed to just our 2 organisations together. There's an additional initiative in there that allows for mechanisms for data sharing, particularly GIS information between the 2 parties. There's a link to the previous work strategic program to, I guess, keep together the history of all the work that this governance committee achieves over the years, and we've also added in the resourcing required to move these initiatives forward, including timeframes and staff responsible to hold ourselves to account to make sure that we're making progress. And then just lastly, the document you'll notice is now fully designed, and in your agenda, there's also this one strategy on the page, which is just the reasons to be able to, at a glance, see the key components of the strategic work program. And so today it's presented and we're looking for approval.
Good, Marlene. Open it up for questions, comments from the committee.
Yeah, it's matured into having its milestones and resources. That's really good.
Just as a can do, so everything's been taken away from the plan, but to give you an example, we've talked about data share since the JMAs were conceived. We're a decade in. What is stopping us with the data share arrangement already? Because I might be asking you something that we don't have either the right context or something for, but we've been asking for GIS since this started. Council has GIS, so other than the JMA asking it and the council saying yes or no, what is stopping something like data share from being enabled? Just as an example, because it is one of those heritage ones.
Yeah, I can give a response there that we're trying to. We've got to legal looking at the data sharing arrangements in terms of what are our responsibilities of receiving the data and what can we do with it, and then also our capacity to receive and hold the data in a proper GIS secure, which we don't currently have sitting in the tribe. We've had a number of iterations of types of GIS systems, but we don't have one that's common across the organisation. So that responsibility sits on our side. So
and then so the reciprocal agreement, this is somewhat 2 terms ago, when the tribe wanted to map as much as possible iwi names in the Waikato here, there was a reluctance to do it. And that wasn't to say that we wanted it for free from the iwi, but it was how do we facilitate the 2-way sharing of data? Because the right place to ask was here, and then they were our staff will quickly refer to academics that don't belong to Waikato Tainui, which is all good if that's the right way. But what is the methodology for information asked from our council into the iwi? Therefore, it's through the JMA, right? For anything Waikato here. But for a long time, so we didn't have a way to talk about the stuff that lands in that space. By this agreement, are we saying something's better and changed? Is it more enabling for staff to find those solutions? That's all I'm asking. Do we need to say something else? To give you a broader set of options to bring back.
One thing that I would point out about this particular work program that is slightly different to the first work program that we entered into is that we've identified teams within the organisation.
Oh, where everything's assigned.
Responsibility, and so that does put, I guess, the responsibility on that particular team. What has been a bit of a challenge previously is one team, particularly on the Waikato Regional Council side, not speaking on behalf of Waikato, carrying all these kaupapa forward. And so this clearly is a shared responsibility in this work program, and the responsibility is sitting where it should. In those teams that have the responsibility for it.
So how do we know, if I may, how do we know, because it's an action point to take from here to record in the limits? Who checks the checkers? So it may be passed on to a team, but how do we know before you come back to the next meeting, next hui, and nothing's happened, or there's no update? So who is responsible then to make sure that the team that's allocated actually produces something, particularly an update, if not the final result for the next hui?
Yeah, that is certainly a challenge that we've found in the past. And I see that there's certainly still a role for Whakatau if we want to play that role within our council. So we'll use this work program to put in place the framework that we need to be able to check on teams to make sure that they're aware of what the obligation is on them and monitor the program and report back.
Sorry, I didn't quite understand that. You put the onus on tangata whenua within council.
Yeah, just within our.
The 1 unit in that council.
Oh, okay, our team within council. Okay.
Yeah.
I just don't want to, because I'll be concerned, actions are given, but yeah, there are action lists that come back, but there's not an action list here today, I can see, of past points that are, there's updates, so that we really need to make sure someone's cracking the whip.
We'll correct that.
Thank you.
So can I just clarify? So there is a mechanism that allows the information to be shared, but we're just waiting to develop the holding mechanism within. Okay, so for me, it would be, well, there's a program that needs to be developed. Are we then working, are we being offered the services to help provide that support? Because if it's already been held within council, or what programs are they using, or is there a discussion to how that they can support us in that going on? Yeah.
Which
So-
we haven't had yet.
Ah,
No, we've talked about, so there's a data sharing agreement around, it's the IT, what is it? It's the
Yeah.
ownership of it's the ownership of the information, I think. And the legal team's looked at that and given us some feedback. And then we need to go back and decide, we don't have a mechanism to receive the information electronically and hold it. We don't have a DIS system on our side. So we need to figure out how we're going to receive it, hold it, and be able to use it.
So I just note that we have some tribal practitioners that are experts in this. So we should be using them, because I've seen other districts where their tribal overlay and their council overlay is working well together. I would hate the tribe to repay for all of that. So just Muka Petit's done it all over the country with the IS, but he's a tribal member that I'm hoping will be engaged in this.
yeah, so that's why I said for me, I would like to see that, because if there's a team already set up for the information to say here, but if we're not being provided the support to say this is how you develop the system so that we can give it to you, then I don't see it move. Yeah, so can that be an action point for that audit or to take effect first before we look at the team, which is sounds like it's ready to go.
Like I know regional council have got an incredible GIS team. And like, if we're not going to capture all of the targets and actions in this document, but I do think there is a conversation that's needed around the best strategy, like you say, Jocelyn, is it to take all the regional council
Just
information, because then you've got to maintain it, and that's a big mahi. Or is there a better way where it's okay, maybe access, because all of us, a lot of the data is open source, so it's freely available anyway. And maybe it's just having access to license via regional council or a tribal member or one of the staff or whoever can, I guess, overlay tribal information, but there is that protocol that's needed as well around how to manage sensitive information. So it would be good if, I don't know, if the minute takers listening, but if you could record some of those things for the team to think about, because we're not going to land all of that here. It's a massive kaupapa, GIS strategy, data management, all of that, but yeah, take Tipper's point around, you know, we don't just want to say, oh, you've got free access to the data. And
Nothing changed. Yeah. Okay. Just if I can move on from that one, because wanting to be support the program of action and just note co-developing a reporting framework, agreed framework for measuring progress and a consolidated of Te Ture Whaimana. I just registered WRA's interest in partnering in that work, whether through this committee or just with me anyway, because we want those measures to mean something here, mean something up the river. A lot of guys say that we could be a partner. And then just in a statement, priority activities are resourced efficiently and joint initiatives are maximised. I'm assuming, having read the doc, that it's maximised in terms of either environmental impact or value for the work done. Just want to confirm that's what we mean.
Can you put me to the right?
Oh, sorry, Ngāhua key benefits, it's the halfway down, prioritise activities are resourced efficiently and joint initiatives are maximised. Because the reverse will be true, that if we're not going to fund it, we're not going to do it. I don't want that to be the case, but it's kind of saying that unless we share the same value as you for something, we won't agree to it. I'm just trying to, what are we saying here? Is value in terms of environmental impact? Is it in terms of people trained? Or is it a joint assessment of what is value? Otherwise, on our page, it could mean something different.
I would suspect in the writing of this, so it's all of the above.
So my example is when we got the Nature for Jobs Tūtea, we kind of, we had an opportunity and we ran the iwi through it. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying because we had a very small window. It's not the optimum way we would have wanted to do that, eh? We wouldn't have wanted to partner up like that. So even though we got some value out of it and we maximised, that wasn't the ideal process as I understood it for iwi, for mana whenua, for anyone. Do you think we've learnt from that process? Again, asking you to, or would we do it to you again? If the money showed up tomorrow, will we run you through the same gauntlet? Because that's not maximising your relationship. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're a long-term partner, but when the door was only half open, we pushed you through and said, hurry up. That's what it felt like on my side.
Was that driven by WRC though, or was that driven by central government?
The window was them, but in terms of our internal processes and how we got there, that was all us, baby. And who we talked to and what we gave priority to around those projects, that was all us. It wasn't through a conversation with iwi. And I know that because I asked at the time. So all I'm saying is, what relationship capital do we have that underlines maximise? Because if it's us, then we'll run you through the same skinny door quickly. Because that's been our behaviour in the past.
Our team is working up a schedule of projects that are meaningful for the tribe, for the marae.
Yeah.
And that would be the lens through which we would be, and then so we'd say to the regional council, here's our list of projects, which ones do you want to
partner?
Yeah. And I guess if if the same request comes back to us, it just depends on whether we have the capacity to respond always. We can't always, but that's what our mana whenua are out there hopefully to do. But yeah, it's a good point to put. I recall that we couldn't respond.
No, not on timely way because we had all those weather events going on. Yeah. No, I just want to make sure that we're learning. Otherwise, the next people that pick us up go run the same risk of doing the same gauntlet again. Thank you.
Just to add, to the korero on this issue so far, that key benefit is also attached to the Biodiversity funding initiative. So we certainly acknowledge that capacity is an issue, and I guess we're wanting to look at the opportunity to assist with some of that capacity in one. So, you know, we haven't yet had the conversation about that, but that's certainly something that's identified as key to try and address these issues that you've raised, and that have been an issue. Yeah, so
Again, because I just think there's other things we could be chasing together, not if we've got enough relationship capital. I'll be saying the MFA, what was their spend on freshwater planning in our region? Because it was zero. They worried about the rest of the country. And I will go to MFA together and say, hey, this is the freshwater support we need in this catchment because you decided to do nothing. But we're obviously not on that page. Yeah, but we need to be. Thank you.
Just through the chair, just to add, connect. It's probably about the partnership part, and that partnership doesn't necessarily need to be by just us two. You know, it could be with others in the you know, in the long term. That you know, we go back to middle pangu, how does work out to the and the strategy, and then moving to connect with our other partners, because the environments, the people, the water, and all, we're all here together. So
Connectedness.
yeah, it's about the connecting to the together. And if we can role model that, then we can role model that with the other territorial authorities, because we've got we're in the same space. So we need to sort of, what's our strategy, whereabouts are we at? And that might be something just to put here to place forward next time, but not taking away from what we've got now. So just pop it in there. Sure.
I think what would be helpful in that is at some point in our LTP deliberations, we hear straight from the JMAs, not wire staff, because the only one that can make value in this, and that's not taking away from staff's ability to present, but only we should speak to what their priorities are. We can hear them or not as elected members, but we should hear it directly, so that we can give it value in that deliberation.
So we've got our LTP on the agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah, having attended the RMLA conference last week, and thanks to the tribe mother for supporting about 15 of us kaitaki, but attend lots of learnings we gained from that experience. And so in the MBEA and the SBA, there's recognition of aiki hapu, and it's actually the word hapu. So when you look at this, it's very iwi-centric. And we're going to a site visit today, and we're going to show you some very good examples of good friends doing great things to achieve great taiao outcomes. So how do you future-proof? So by the way, as a disclaimer, this will probably be my last meeting. I didn't get elected onto Te Whakinga by my marae. Because actually Mari and I were overseas trying to represent New Zealand. Didn't get any But one of the key questions is around how do you provide, and make this one big question for us as a tribe, actually marae and hapu capacity to achieve mana motuhake in their backyard. And as an example, there's going to be lots of focus on hapu. I think Tina Parau said we need 6,000 kaitaki to respond to the myriad of demands that are going to be forthcoming from MBA and any other reforms. So in terms of this particular strategy, how do we recognise and provide for support and capacity for hapu, and how do we future-proof this awesome document, by the way, the SOAP strategy on the page, in regards to future-proofing any other really wildlife and changes of reforms in government legislation that impact on this. And the reason why I say that is, you may know, I work for Ngāti Hau in my full-time capacity, and resource consenting is huge. These solar farms popping up all over the place. And in terms of capacity, I think there's a resource consent process that also needs to be acknowledged, because if we take our kaitaki that we had a fantastic trip down, and how do we build capacity for us to respond to the overflow of demands post reforms, so that we can maximise on the knowledge and partnerships of GIS and all the other expertise that we have within our arrangement to really channel and focus a succinct, sharp response to all the needs and the consenting that comes. So my question is around capacity of hapu and focus on resource consents and the demands that are going to be forthcoming. Any acknowledgements on that one? Whakatau?
It's not mine, only Whakatau is that Waikato we represent 33 hapu. So within our, as all of us know, so within our structure, our hapu are captured. I guess it's how we open up these opportunities and the needs to our marae and hapu is the question. So rather than like LTP just coming to the JMA, like, well, we should be going to our kaitaki. They should be involved in those workshops with staff so that the team are hearing from the people on the ground, not just governors who are in it, day in, day out, where the needs are. But we'll come to it.
I'll just jump in there, Manaki, you all remember the blueprint process, and we spent a week up here at the college and bringing in a lot of people and the biggest message that I took from that was that hapu wanted a voice. They told us of the creation by statute of Waikato Tainui, iwi, but they hapu were the strength of Waikato Tainui, and they wanted hapu and marae to be consulted, and because at times there was variance, and with all good families there's variance from time to time. And I hear what Norm's been saying. I just wonder whether there's an opportunity to learn from that experience that we both went through, is to whether the regional council needs to do something in partnership with Waikato Tainui to reach out to the hapu, and I've got your opinion too. And that it's always that body over there, but you've got to empower the people, and that blueprint process was incredibly empowering for all our communities of Tautokana. So I just wonder whether that's something that we could reflect on, and perhaps for another day. But it was, the council came to where the people relate to, didn't drag them there. They wouldn't have come, I don't think. And made the emphasis of going out and talking to people, and we really got some outstanding results. So I don't know, it was consultation in a different way, and it worked.
Kia ora, just mindful of time.
Appreciate
and I think that is captured or can be noted as a method of delivery of some of the programs that are in this plan. So like the civil defence one, to me makes perfect sense that you would go to the communities, not have a read here or a Hamilton about it. But yeah, I think I think the onus is on regional council, and I guess as a JMA, we can encourage you to take ownership of that. Yes, the team can work with you to help coordinate how to do it, but engaging with our marae, or at least giving them the opportunity and our hapu to participate in discussions around things like the long-term plan, because we know if there's no money in your budgets, then it's not happening over the coming months.
And if I could just make a comment, I support the endeavor to look at different ways of engaging with all of our communities. We have a big, huge area to be able to do that across, and resourcing that will be challenging. And so I just raised that yes, I think it's a great idea for us to, as the regional council, to be able to deliver that across our rohi would be resource intensive and would require significant investment in order to do that across every single one of them. So we would need to find a way that it could be facilitated and resourced appropriately and affordably. So that would be the only caveat I would put around.
Yeah, but I think something that could help, Norma, speaking into it, the Taiao Forum used to be a help, because you could go into the issues of the Kaitaki at the time. There was already a forum of the tribe that we could come to in Panui. But it would be, is there a planned addendum to Taitami Taipari Taiao that takes into account the reform? So people know who to talk to and when, in terms of Waikato Tainui, just a one pager that says now must. We have to anyway as council. But if you go to the next paper, we did it in your area, freshwater planning, we got 11 of your voices. So we do it badly if you don't help us.
I think it's definitely a space that we need to work together. I think there are examples that are happening right now of some local authorities doing it well and getting a lot of people turning up to talk about things like the long-term plan. So there's a sharing that can happen there. And it doesn't have to be all go to a hall, you know, in 3 hours away from where you live. A lot of people do like turning up online because they can actually turn up and participate regularly rather than once every 6 months. I'm just going to carry on with the strategic program. Are there any other questions, comments? I've got a lot actually, but I won't go there. Because I think they're detailed, and it's really trying to understand and be clear on what some of the programs actually are. So I will take those offline with you, Marty. Are there any other comments or questions?
I suppose questioning around partnership. The intent of a partnership, will that extend to contractors that are contracting into us or Waikato Regional Council, and the messaging and the education, whatever that messaging might be. The reason I ask that is about consistent messaging and an intent to frame, the future of our landscape. And so it's just about asking what's the messaging, the collective messaging, and is it consistent through that we work with regards to different stakeholders. So that's just a question, just to pop there, just for consideration, if it is or if it isn't. Then the reason I ask that is, chatting with lots of different landowners, farmers, we're sort of sometimes talking, looks like we're talking past each other, but the intent is the same. So, what messaging are we actually coming together to advocate that we're actually talking about the same thing, but just talking about it in a different way and different ideas of maybe achieving the outcome in a different way. So just placing it.
Actually, I am going to talk to my specific things just so we can consider them. And if you agree, we can change the wording. I'm just going to go into the community preparedness line. In terms of the outcomes, I just wanted to check that the joint preparedness strategy, that includes assisting our marae and hapu to understand the hazards and risks for them and prepare their own preparedness plans. Yep, that doesn't include that. For the social procurement line, I see that the outcome is specifically targeted opportunities to support opportunities for Māori. I would prefer that says support opportunities for Waikato Tainui rather than Māori. Given that this is our DMA, this is our strategic program. So just testing that, if others are happy with that change.
Sorry, can you say that one again?
So it's under the social procurement block, and the outcomes currently says objectives specifically targeted to support opportunities for Māori.
If you have a look under the initiative column, Waikato Tainui is specifically mentioned, but we will bring it over to the outcomes as well.
The empty capacity funding, we've also spoken a little bit about that. And my read of this is that it's largely joint advocacy, as opposed to having a key action or target that specifically says funding included in the 2024 to 34 LTP to support this. And I would be keen to see as an action or target for a line to say funding included in the 2024 to 34 LTP. And that sort of speaks to what you were saying, to go around, well, if there's no funding, does it not have to?
We can certainly add a action that is the intent. We've got long-term discussion currently to amend that. initial funding that has been identified for this year through to the long-term event. So certainly discussions along those lines. These will be.
Great. The collaborative projects, it's, you know, a minor thing, but in the outcomes, I think that the outcome is to acknowledge and celebrate the successes rather than governors getting to see and hear about stuff. Even though that might be part of acknowledging, so something for you to consider here. In the Regional Heritage Forum, I wasn't very clear on what the actual outcome is, but now that I look at this more closely, maybe it's becoming clear. Developing a framework. Want to just have our target being another framework. The Regional Heritage Inventory, what is that?
It's one of ours. It's one of our outcomes that we hold.
Yeah, so this particular initiative is relatively new within the program. It does point to a piece of work that is currently underway, and is certainly a priority for Waikato. From what I understand, the inventory will assist to identify sites that are important to
All right. That ties in with the data share.
As I understand
We
it,
have to do it.
we don't always want some of their sites known. So there's got to be a caveat on the should.
There's ways within that heritage process though where you can identify it as significant without registering all the history.
Right.
And audit as a mechanism to protect that history, but it's had very low engagement. This is the one that Glenn was making us run around.
Yes, it is.
Yeah,
That one.
because he heard through us, not through Hauraki. But they're in the same, they've been invited to the same forum. So this is all the iwi in the region, not just Waikato, but yeah. I would really like to hear back from Waikato Tainui, the value to them of that, because it might not be their priority.
I think what we've agreed is that there's some BAU stuff that the council need to do.
Yeah.
And then there's some there's some priorities on our side, and preparedness, social procurement. So what we've tried to do in this program is to capture the work that needs to be done so that we can plan it out in a way that we can manage well, rather than being okay, here's another thing we have
Another
to do
thing.
and another thing. So yes, it is a priority of the council, but we obviously need to input into it. And so that's why Marley and I have said, let's put like the lean management strategy, the reviews happening. So we've tried, it's a compromise sort of a document, so that enables us to plan a little bit more with the capacity and resources that we have.
And the final ones were on the mechanisms for data share, just picking up on comments that were there, the discussion we've already had around potentially adding an action to develop the data sharing and management protocols, just to pick up on those things that we're talking about, because the actions in there at the moment are a couple of sessions, so a couple of training sort of things, that's it. So wondering if we could add that. And I just had a question around what about training for our kaitiaki and access for our kaitiaki into NGO systems. That's also something that can be considered. But very happy to see the land management strategy and implementation up there. And there's two really one more.
Maybe the chair just around what Tainui and Māori that we think. Just wondering if Mātā Waka might be
Yeah, make more sense.
yeah, what Tainui and Mātā Waka around Whakatau ko tahitanga, Whakatau ko tahitanga e haere tahi.
Can you just speak to the difference between the two for the my wider councillors? I get what you're trying to say. Can you help me? Thank you.
Okay, so just
Yeah.
just around it sounding exclusive. Just us, a part of our manakitanga, as in being Waikato Tainui and the ahuatanga of manakitanga and all of our villages, about looking after everybody. And so being inclusive of Mātā Waka, being a lot of our different kind from different iwi that reside in the same takiwa. And so it's about our responsibility of manakitanga as well. We sometimes, we sort of, in this type of engagement, we're sort of focused on the letter of the detail rather than the intent of the whole. And so the intent of the whole is really about to manaaki all that come into our takiwa. And so, and how we sort of reference that in marae when we come on and like Norm was welcoming with Waikato, is about acknowledging all of the different mātāwaka or miro mā, miro whiro, miro pango, all the different ancestral threads. So we're actually messaging, and this is my point to the messaging, is that if we actually get the messaging right to go out to all of our people in our area, they'll actually start to understand, like Tip has asked to share the understanding of the intent of that word. So being mātāwaka, it's a nice, you know, other waka that come before us that are in our same space. And so that it reads like that, so that we can say we're constructing things not just for us, but for actually everybody, for the well-being of the sky, the whenua, the water, and everything in between. But we want to be clear. So that's my message. That's my point to the messaging. Let's be quite clear about our intent, because out there is good people. There needs to be sharing of understanding, so that we can move forward. Come on.
If you go just this one, one of this is linguistic yoga, but with all respect, totally for the mātāwaka, I think my read on it was actually Waikato Tāne, we're reading the Waikato Tāne specific, and that's why I also supported the Waikato Tāne and not Māori in general word, because it does reference that. But so my focus was on maximising opportunities for Waikato Tāne. For stock there. Kona taka ni whakawe pana ki te kupu, e pana ki te iwi o Waikato anake.
So would we call ourselves Māori? No, we call ourselves Waikato. Anyone that's not from Waikato, we call them mātāwaka, people from other parts of the motu. Yeah, just by way of addition to excellent.
I'm just wondering, just reflecting on how we've spent a bit of time there, just making sure that those of us that sit around this table understand it. I'm wondering if there's avenue to ensure that anybody who picks up this document, including any councillors in the future or other councillors this term that might pick it up, will also get the richness of that understanding. I don't know how we might facilitate that, whether there's.
I think the JMAs come with their own glossaries at the moment.
And then I think it's that your own within your staff who can help with that. I guess we'll talk about that, because I was on the phone with Whakatau, Norm. But I guess if you've picked up the majority of the changes, we'll come back to you with that one. Everyone's happy with the strategic program, subject to the amendments that we've discussed. Yep, I get a mover.
Yep.
Norm, seconder. No. All in favour? Carried. We are way behind time, but that was an important paper to spend time on. It's a decision paper.
Yeah.
So moving quickly to Peter, freshwater policy development.
Tēnā koutou, rangatira. I'm a member of the Freshwater Policy team, working on the NPS. Co-chairs, I don't know, given the amount of time we've got left, if any particular emphasis that the committee would like me to focus on, or we're just happy to do a summary of my paper.
We'll take the paper as read.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yes. Are there any questions from the committee? I have one question, Peter, and it might be to the governors as opposed to the technical detail of the document. But I was interested in the decision-making process that's being adopted for this policy. Just looking at the timeline, in the notification end, there's a box in there, recommendation from iwi. I'm just wondering what is the process that you're going through in the policy development stage to ensure that iwi hapu kaitiaki voice is being heard and reflected, at least in options that are being developed at that policy end, and then what is the recommendation from iwi, what is that?
I guess I can break it down into two parts. There's the technical side of things, which I am involved with Stephanie Wilson in terms of the Ngāti group, which is basically putting forward even perspectives in terms of the key components like Te Mana Tawai, Tapu, and other aspects, Māori. The intent is to have a line of sight to some form of co-governance, which I can't really speak to. It's more in keeping, I guess, with the governors. But the conversations that I've had around engagement sessions, and indeed from the Ngāti approach as well, just where is the decision making going to be? That is sort of at the end of the day. Certainly the policy recommendations can come through. There's the intention to have a third round with for the information for the committee. There's been 2 rounds of engagement. The second round has just been completed, and all the feedback is being collated into a report, which will go to council in October. It will then be made available to all the stakeholders and partners, and of course it also will be made available to the Ngāti Ramatonga in terms of their forming up of policy in terms of perspectives into Te Ao Māori. Now, what happens there, I can't really speak. That's more for my governance, and I respect their ability to speak about when the time is appropriate.
And having attended a number of the second round meetings, a number of the groups who attended those consultation meetings on round 1 didn't see anything reflected from them in the round 2 consultation. So as a governor, I'm certainly looking for a wider perspective across the region in that second round feedback to be reflected in any reports that we see. Otherwise, I would be rather grumpy if it's not reflective of the whole community. So I'm not really wanting to say too much more, but we heard significantly from some of the sectors who didn't have any comments recorded from the first round. So really want to see and understand who the gatekeepers are and why things aren't being brought to the table. So that's an internal issue probably, but I'm just letting you know that there are a number of us who want to see more reflected in those papers.
So the time frames for recommendations on the overall decision-making process?
Right. So the NPSFM requires the plan to be notified by December 2024. So very tight timeframes.
Should be coming up soon.
Yeah, well, we're hoping to get something out, probably little changes after having gone through this process. And of course, each of the 5 year under section 40 available will be just like with the postal plan, for comment and feedback in terms of the document itself before it goes out to wider notification.
So in this round, we haven't captured many voices from Waikato Tainui, it seems, just by numbers in the room. They may have been in the Zoom. Asking the iwi, what could we do to assure ourselves that the kaitiaki and Dusseldorf here have had the information and had a chance to input, because you have access to them, that we don't enjoy. So is there anything we can do to assure ourselves that the kaitiaki and this, because again, meetings after work and meetings in the weekend also clash with tribal meetings and marae committees and koronehana recently, but you try and tell that to other busy people. So I understand that there are other priorities. So I don't think 11 of the iwi that settled this river is a quorum. If you know what I mean. I know that when we talk about it, any of our kaupapa, people too might get their kōrero rangata whakaaro. So how can you help us bring more surety to what's being said, at least in the Waikato part of the catchment, that is your mana whenua. And if we did do it, what would be the time frame to assure ourselves that it happened? Because you don't want everything to come by submission.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
want some of it to have been put into this process. So I'm asking that from the iwi, and then from us, how would we provide for it in our current process? Because it's neither the process's fault that we missed it, there's other priorities for people, but it is a miss. If the iwi that settled this river is the smallest contribution to this conversation, so asking for help really. What hui can we bring it to? Where you can get the quorum, we can provide definitely the expertise to assure ourselves that their input is into this freshwater management.
Through the chairs, I think, as you say, so that a key for us obviously is like the tie-up forum as one of the mechanisms, but also standing up a specific meeting for this, because we've got a lot of other water kaupapa going on across, you know, the affordable water, all of those sorts of things, which all feed into the freshwater plans and policies. So I just think it's just, like you say, there are always competing priorities, so finding the headspace to enable that interaction is the challenge. Look, I want to acknowledge that the team from council have done everything that they to ensure that we are part of the conversation. And so, and again, I think it goes to Jackie's, through our chair, Jackie's point that we need to make it for accessibility. So whether it's an evening conversation via a Zoom, via a Teams link as an initial start of the team, and then just pulling those in with a face-to-face or, you know, a final read to wrap it all up, of which we would absolutely invite the expertise from within WRC to contribute to that.
So can we note that as an action that the team will work with the regional council team to get a plan together? So important to freshwater policy.
Yeah. Like everything else, it all rolls on the team.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
So,
do you want us to receive the? Okay. With the gene. So we're trying to win some time back, but those people have been waiting for the whole week. So kia ora, Judy, the Waikato Biodiversity Forum.
Kia ora tātou, ko Judy Morrison tōku ingoa, no the Netherlands, o mātua, I te mai mai, o ku mātua ki a te aroa, I te tēnu kotaki, mana iwa hau rīwatu. I whānau mai a hau ki tamaki me haurau, ko te toio ko whāru toko monga, ko manukau toko moana, e nāri he tamahiri, a hau e nukura, no reira, tēnā koutou.
So again, we might just take the paper as read and open up for any questions or comments from the committee. The recommendation is that we receive the report. Any questions or comments?
Really excited about this piece of work, just since the MPS and Business Biodiversity took so long to get to this point. And yeah, Accord obviously step one, strategy step two. Really appreciate the complex relationships with the key agency roles in that table. It'll be a good one. I'll be back to you when I get it. Yeah, so just thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that we'd greatly appreciate a student in this committee as to the best approach in terms of drafting the content of the Accord. We're looking to have a workshop in November to look at that, and also we understand that calling it an Accord does come with some connotations, so we can call it something else. It could be a pledge or an agreement or something like that.
Shanda, just help me join the dots a little bit. If this existed already, like say we'd signed it off last year, would it have changed anything with the clam situation? With the manner of who was in that room being sorted by this Accord? Because, you know, that was messy, hey? Even
continues
to get all the right people in the room, the right mana whenua, would this help that? Because if it does, I'm happy.
Within the long term, but this is a pretty final.
Yeah, back from there.
Looking at something along the lines of like, basically, that kind of simple document that gives us that statement of commitment to work together. And then the strategy
As
comes
well.
after that,
Fine,
it's the
thank
detail that's at that local level.
But all I'm saying is if it existed, it would have set up an assumed protocol for everything that happened after that, right?
Yeah, so something like the camps would be an issue that would be recognised within the strategy, and we would be, working towards some actions to resolve that issue. So that detail is really at the strategy level, not the which is
And then not for this conversation, but I just give to the iwi, what's the role of WRA in terms of the other partner agencies? I've got a selfish interest in that, of course, but because we're in that room on behalf of the river, but we're not in the paper on behalf of the river. So I just put that to you. Thank you.
Yeah, that was my part. I really was around the clams and what does that.
What would have happened?
And that's how does it connect it, how will it connect and bring the parties together, given that our partner programs
They went to the
they went to the whenua and they did the Mihi and they put the kōrero out. And when we were attending, I think some of the stuff down at Bob's Landing, I mean some of the discussions that happened there sort of was disjointed. And so it's how
between agencies.
Yeah, between as in the strategy. And so what would that actually look like?
What good would it?
And that's what worries me, if I may, Madam Chair. The issue there is if you've got an unwilling national government agency that was slow to react, slow to communicate, was resistant to talk about it in public, delayed everything. Nothing on paper is going to change that. It's a complete attitude change, cultural change in how they work with the community that they're supposed to represent. I'd like to put a rocket under them and give them a world
not formality.
Kicking the whatever. But that was an appalling and remains, I believe, an appalling situation. We're behind the 8 ball and they failed us as a community.
Yeah.
So I can tell it to their face when I see them.
I think it's a clear message at the coordinator. They want to move out of the way.
Yeah.
In a nice way, if you're not going to actually help.
Yeah.
And then people will get on with it and do what they know they need to. It comes back to the I think the intent definitely high level.
But the accord or the strategy is there to fall back on. There should be the relationship with the community that just gets on and does the right thing. And okay, you've got that accord or whatever it's called. But yeah, we cannot let that happen again. And we've had other incursions. It just seems to be getting worse each time. What is going to come in next?
Can I just link up to that point? Again, how do you future-proof any other incursions? We've got the clam, we had botulism, what else is in the future that climate change brings about by natural attrition, and how do we future-proof that whole learning and what's learning? You fail and you learn, how do we not do that again going forward or not?
Yeah, well, good forward with foot and mouth. Well, the economy is killed straight away. We cannot afford to have our border breached.
I think it comes back to that strategic connected strategy, between even territorial authorities, WDC, HCC, WRC. What is that looking like, and how are you advocating at that high level? But strategy, I think intent's good for this.
And we have NPR there as well. So we've got a recommendation to receive the report. Judy will be talking to partners over the coming months around the form and structure and name of the accord. Disappointing we need an accord to figure out how to work together. Can I get a vote? Don, all in favour? Carried. Long-term plan. Paper? Yeah.
Ko te whakapaparanga mai, ko community te whenua tutu, ko community ngā i corporate planning manager o Iwi, ko Kunihere Arohe o Waikato, ko Hevamosh o Ungoa, tēnā tātou katoa.
Great to you guys have commitments after this, so I want to be respectful of your time, so just checking if it's okay to take it as read or if you want to.
Yep, I'm happy to take the paper as read. Thank you, Haven. Just again, open it up for comments or questions from the committee. Just one comment from me, and it's just to reiterate what I said earlier around a request that we open up a dialogue between not just a Waikato Tainui entity, but our Kaiwhaki, Marae and Hapu representatives to have an open line of sight on the LTP and have an opportunity to feed into the direction of LTP takes ahead of it being considered by governments. I can speak to the approach that Hamilton City are taking, which is to have fortnightly workshops. If no one turns up, then they don't have it. But it's basically an opportunity to hear the voice of the people around where their priorities are to help support, I guess, the deliberations and decisions that governance will eventually need to make, but at least providing that forum for those voices to be heard and recorded, as opposed to wait for a submission period and then do it that way. So that's really my request, is that we do that, and the team can assist with, I guess, how to do that in terms of who to contact and what's most effective. That would be fantastic if that could.
So just checking on what exactly that might look like. Is that a workshop just with Waikato Tainui, or is that a more broader attendance? Who would be a part to that workshop?
So what I'm seeing elsewhere is it's not Waikato Tainui, the organisation, but it's Waikato Tainui people. So whether they're representing their marae or their organisation and staff, but not just relying on Manaki and Jaden and a few Waikato Tainui staff members, but actually opening the door to the people who are working on the ground, who live in the communities, because these are our drivers. And I don't think I'm not expecting any surprises, but at least it's an opportunity for the people preparing the plan to hear that voice and to put that forward to council when you're considering.
But it's back to Waikato Tainui, so there would need to be workshops provided to everyone else as well, if we were to go down that track.
What you do with others is your business. I guess we're here to talk about Waikato Tainui.
Right, through the chair, I just was trying to keep my comments short because they're on the time frame, but I've heard a few times now it's about not having or seen enough evidence that Waikato Tainui people have been spoken to about this. Given that, if there is workshops, obviously government agencies, you have to make it like a public forum. However, you have the resources right here, and if there's like a journal to provide notices, you can easily access the tribe to get notices out for people within the Rohe, like manually, over social media, everything that you can pretty much get for Waikato Tainui connection to. So just here is I don't know why it's my last meeting too, so I was trying to be good, but I've heard it just like a few times being a new member, is that hey, we don't see enough of our own people. Yes, I agree, but you still have the resources to provide public notices through the tribal forum to utilize it, and I would strongly recommend that, because if whoever comes back in the next terms is saying the same, public information that you're gonna have new recs saying exactly the same thing. I don't see it going through our tribal arm. So I'm just trying to get the Kōrero to a safe space where, okay, yep, we don't have enough people from Waikato having input, then utilize, if you have public notices that go out to everyone from, then use our tribal. Yeah, I sit here for, who else? The Whakatau, yeah, so use that forum.
Just on that note, Madam Chair, the issue I raised earlier is that coming here with Waikato District to Tainui and inviting members of the tribe to talk in a space that they are familiar and safe within. I think if the tribe was to be able to open that type of channel again to engage, I would be surprised if it wasn't a good result, based on my previous experience and being involved in that. So a different way, but I would encourage using all that mechanism. Mark knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Just to contribute, I'll be real quick. It's a double-edged sword because you can have the hui and we're kind of exhausted of over hui. So it's I think the tie-up form is actually quite a good lever to maximise on our tie-up form. So everyone's actually there and bring key kaupapa around. And now everything there, everyone's all part of what's been hui up. So I think that's how we
call it engagement fatigue, but also that we've got an environmental plan that, from our what we expect is that council's looked at it, incorporated it into recommendations or the starting points there, and then you build from that. So that's the expectation. But absolutely, the chambers is available to be booked, and we can support. We will support it.
I think particularly with the regional council, given the reach, the Kaiao forum is an appropriate forum for all of us, as opposed to Waikato district.
So we could expect to be able to talk to, on behalf of our part of the LTP, into the Kaiao forum, potentially into Te Whakakitenga, and potentially directly to Te Arataura. Or are they going to aggregate it to the tribe to speak on LTP?
Okay. I think this is.
No, if it's and I'm good. But we just need to know, we've talked to exhausted it on this side, because I can do all of those engagements, but I just need somebody to say, yeah, they're willing to listen. I can't get LTP on the Whakakitenga agenda.
Oh, I don't think that will happen.
But it's as stakeholders of the whole region, it's something that I would say is of their 67 group interest.
Yeah, but so is every LTP.
Yeah, but just as a functioning process that happens every 3 years, you'd think we've been more engaged now. That's all I mean. We've done 10 years of other people's LTPs and processes. I'm asking us, when do we design our house to smash some of these processes and own them? That's all.
I agree.
I
don't think this months before landing the LTP, trying to have that kōrero. Like, I think it is being clear on what our values are and where our priorities are. And that can come from the Kaiao plan and list that the entity of the iwi have. But I do think that there's on the ground, what the needs of our people are, that you're not necessarily going to get keeping them. So I think it's an and thing with the LTP. So Kaiao forum, it might be that it's a notice to keeping up for a separate one.
But they want more using their stretch to get the right people in the room.
So that's what I meant, the stretch that we have already. We have registered beneficiaries, so even the public notices that can go up, that can reach individuals as well, because if it's in partnership with the tribe, then you'll probably get more people trust that process, right?
And I guess where I'm trying to sort of lean into is before it's notified, so it's to help design the LTP before it's released to the public for submissions and for feedback, so that we're captured in what goes up.
And I totally support that, but we're framing our assumptions about LTP now.
I know.
All councils are, and if the tribe joins next year,
No, I'm talking about now, so that's what I guess using examples that are happening right now.
Yeah.
Of, you know, it could be too much, but at Hamilton City, we're getting 25 people turning up every fortnight. So it's not just one hui about LTP, it's 2 hour blocks, you know, we're going to talk about this is the time frame, this is these are the themes, these are the challenges, then what are your values, and then, you know, so it's set, and if there's nothing to talk about or people have had too much, then it gets canned, but at least it's a concerted effort to actually get some more voices.
It's an NDC thing.
The Hamilton City workshops are open to
well, these are
like when they workshop the long-term plan, is that open to the public to attend?
Are these specific?
Yeah, these are specifically for Manukau.
Oh, they are, yeah, but the general ones are as well. I'm just mindful we have general workshops at the Metro Council and they're closed. Which
I think the council
believes that,
closed.
which, oh right, they're just saying like,
It doesn't
we've got a lot
include a whole
of talks to taking the community with you as you develop and what they are seeing, and then obviously there's extra engagements. So, yeah.
And I guess recognising Te Tiriti as foundation.
Connection.
So I guess we'll take that offline, but we have a resolution in front of us that we received the report, thank you, Hamish. A lot of work to be done in the next few months.
Happy to move.
Tipper, Norman, second, all in favour? Carried. I didn't see an action list on the agenda. There was?
No,
I didn't see
it's
that.
not, that's what I mentioned earlier.
I saw it somewhere.
The coloured one, isn't it?
Yeah.
The blue.
It's on colour now.
Yeah. It's got some colours now on for it. Oh, that I'm reading the wrong thing.
I think that's the last work program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very good.
I think a lot of these have been kept up in the.
Yeah. Believe in the change stuff.
Yep, some of them are ongoing.
Yeah.
I just had one question around the protocols to guide engagement with office and the Kingtonga, and whether that's been, where that's at.
You won't get one if you ask him. I'm still on the Sunday, mate.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'll leave that.
If you want to find out when I finish.
Almost there. Off the back of our lead, the last one, we did get in touch with also the team on that, and explain first approach and come back thumbs up. And a requested involved in it, so we'll work with. Is
good outcome. So not quite there yet, but we're getting on the right route.
Yeah.
So one final item. But we don't have to do anything with.
I think it's a good message, just move and just have it over and second it.
Can I get someone to move receipt of the action list? Jean, second one, all in favour? Carried. So I just had one more item on the general business, and that was the re-establishment of the Lower Waikato Catchment Committee. And thank you, Regional Council, for re-establishing the committee. Thank you, Noel, for sharing the terms of reference. And I guess requesting that Waikato Tainui nominate and put some people forward for that committee. I did have one request on the terms of reference. At the moment, the Waikato Tainui representatives are limited to either a trustee or staff for Waikato Tainui. And my request is that that be opened to whomever we Waikato Tainui appoint.
Yes, so two nominees from Waikato Tainui.
Yeah. Yep.
So Marty, will that come back, if I can, through Marty, will that come back through council to change the COI, because it can't, ICM can't do it, it's got to be council, isn't it?
Yeah, so we can't make any decisions on it at today's meeting.
No, it's a request.
It's not on the agenda, but we'll bring this forward through a staff report to council to update the terms of reference to reflect that.
And you may want to talk to Greg, because there was one or two other things I think that he was needed to sharpen up.
But that can be noted as an action, please, William.
It's all been recorded, I can note in the minutes, right?
Awesome. Excellent, thank you. Big agenda in an hour and 25 minutes. Not me. Just want to say thank you to Regional Council and staff, and Whakatau staff for the last 3 years. Sorry.
I just want to make to the committee if this is your last week, Karoha, because I think we just straightened up the waka to go forward. And if it isn't, look forward to working with you again. But on the what ifs, what kind of hui do you want us to have to onboard the new quorum of this committee, should that be the case? If you can think about it, don't bring it back now. But whatever you think the optimum first hui should look like, can you let Jackie know, and then she can feed it up the grapevine, just so we land in a good place. Thank you. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou.
So the arrangements are to come back here for lunch once you've done the site visit, so the team will be able to receive everybody from 1 o'clock. But I might say you might be a bit late, say 1:30 or something. But back here for lunch and
we're losing we're losing at least Noel, so if we close off both of our hui,
just been very clear, no mihi ana kia koe. Tō mahi, ko te karo tō mora. Mihi ana kia koe o mahi whakapaupaha koe te wani te hāpuri katoa. Peringi tērā tūaurutanga, tātou katoa tautoko ngā kōrero, ko kōrero kia, te tautoko ngā pukenga rau. Wā tātou nei hāpuri whānui. So mihi ana kia tātou katoa. Roto tērā pē tuku ana kia koe, hapi ko tātou nei karekoia. Tēnei wahanga.
Mihi ka tika ki tēnei nā te wanaunga mai o te kauri, kona tonu hui whakamutunga hoki. Tēnei te miki kia tātou katoa ngā māngai ngā tani whanga o te ao Waikato, tēnei te miki tēnā tātou katoa. Kia whakakapi tō tātou nei hui karau te kurai o te ato. Kia tau kia tātou katoa o te ato pai o tō tātou ariki, a hikoraiti me te aroha o te ato me te whiwhina taitanga ki te wairua tapu ake. Amen.
we'll see you guys back.
And so from here, for those of you that are joining us on bike visit, you might want to come to the spot before we go, because we'll be in the middle of nowhere. So we'll do that first, and then if you just meet us out the front, we'll jump into the white van and we'll make our way. So
I'll give them 1:30.